Well, hey y'all. Welcome to the Q&A video for GenX Gypsy. Yeah, very different video than I usually make. I've got my tea here for spilling the tea, and I have done pretty much no prep for this video other than pulling the questions that you guys asked. If you are new here or you're completely confused about why you started watching this video, I'm not really sure why you started watching this video either, but we just recently reached a milestone, a big milestone on the GenX Gypsy channel. We reached 50,000 subscribers, and I say we because this was definitely a community effort, and I want to thank all of y'all for coming back and watching those videos week after week and being supportive and giving your suggestions of things to help us all out in the community to have better travels, more fun travels, and to motivate those of us that might be a little stuck and not quite sure whether they want to go on those adventures yet, and giving them the little boost of confidence that they need in order to go out and live their dreams. But today is about learning about me, I guess. So I asked over on Instagram and in the YouTube community for some questions that you guys might be curious. And boy, there's definitely one topic that everybody is interested in, and I'm going to do that thing where I leave it to the last. So yeah, let's just get started, shall we? I'm going to have a sip of tea to clear my throat. Like I said, I haven't done any prep work on this. I've tried to not really look at the questions very much, so you can get my most authentic and probably maybe sometimes incoherent answers. I'll try to edit this the best I can, but yeah, I'm going to be pretty raw here. Okay, so the first question is, I can't read that. Do you need reading glasses? Yes, I need reading glasses. So the first question is, do you typically like a well-planned trip, or do you prefer spontaneous trips? That is an interesting question because I would say I want to be a spontaneous person and that I like spontaneous trips, but the honest truth is that I do prefer planning. I do kind of like to know what I am getting into. So I would say my preference is more planned trip than spontaneous. But that being said, I absolutely will jump on board if somebody comes up at the last minute and they're like, hey, we've got an extra spot for this trip to, I don't know, wherever it might be. I'd probably be like, yes, I'm in and I can do that. But typically I like to have my life a little more planned out than that. And I do always try to build, and if you've been here a while, you know this, I try to build flexibility and spontaneity into the trips that I plan for myself. I like to have gaps of time with openness, so that if something comes up that a local is telling us that we should try, or something else that happens that I want to be able to experience, I want to have that availability built into my travel plans. So I don't like to have my travel plans all the way like totally planned from minute to minute. I do like to have a lot of flexibility in there. So that was a long-winded answer to that question. Okay, so the next question is more of a lifestyle kind of question. And let me just read the question because I think I know what she's asking, and I just want to be clear. I know you've mentioned that you live in a 70s trailer. I love hearing people's stories on how they came to certain decisions in their lives. I'm in Tennessee, and I've absolutely considered it. I think she's considered living in a trailer as a single person and to help control housing costs, especially these days. But I definitely worry about tornadoes. Being in North Carolina, is this something you worry about? So I'll give a full answer to this story, or to this question. So I came to live in a 1970s trailer in a very roundabout way. And we'll get to some of this story a little bit later on, but I moved back to North Carolina in late 2019 after some other situations. And At that time, Hurricane Florence had hit a little over a year before that, and my mom's house had a tree fall on it, and it needed to have some remodeling done. And we had decided that my mom had decided that she was going to do a full house remodel, which had needed to be done for years. So we were going to have that done starting in spring of 2020. Well, we all know what happened in spring of 2020. When it came time for us to try to find a place to move into out of my mom's house for the remodel work to be done, it was very challenging because at that time, the places that were rentals around here actually closed down their rentals because of COVID. So luckily, her next door neighbor happened to have a family trailer on the island, on the beach where I live and grew up here, that they weren't using. So they offered that for us to move into. Well, long story short, the remodel happened. My mom moved back into her house. And since I didn't really want to, I love my mom, but it's a small house and I really wanted to have my own space, I asked the neighbor if I could continue living here. So that is how I have come to live in a 70s trailer on the coast of North Carolina. It's a fantastic, absolutely unbelievable location. I'm like 6 houses from the ocean. I'm really close to all of my really good friends here. Like all of them live within a mile and a half of me. So it has been a no-brainer. Location was absolutely the reason that I decided to live in the trailer. And because it was somebody I knew, the finances penciled out really, really well for me. So that is kind of the story of why I live in the 70s trailer. Do I worry about the weather situation? There have been a couple of instances where we've had some water spouts, either due to heavy thunderstorms that we've had here. I do not stay in the trailer during hurricanes, when the hurricanes have come over. We've only had a couple and they've been pretty small, luckily. So I do go to a friend's house that I stay at that is within a mile of this place. So if it got really bad, I'd be able to come back and forth and check on things if I needed to. But the two instances that we have had some weather that really thought we might get more of a water spout than a tornado here. I have ended up going in the bathroom because that's the one space that doesn't have any windows and all that good stuff, and thought that I did not want to be a cliche and being a woman in her 50s living alone and dying in a trailer. There has been that a couple of times, but most of the time I don't worry about it at all. I just, I guess I have kind of that thought of if it's my time, it's my time, and so be it. But I also feel like I'm kind of a survivalist. So there's a little bit of that. I hope that answers your question. I think that the circumstances for me just have made this the most idyllic living situation that I could have at this time. Okay, so question number 3. I think this one came from Instagram. Do you ever want to cut your hair, or is it easier traveling with long hair? I've never really thought about that as a question, which is interesting because for most of my life, my hair was either shoulder length or shorter. I mean, I've had super, super short hair. If I can find a couple of pictures of me with a pixie cut when I was in my 20s, I will put it up here on screen somewhere. But most of the time I had a bob of some sort. It has taken me so long to grow my hair out that I don't even ever consider cutting it short at this time. It is, I think, easier. Whoops, I'm probably making noises. It is easier for me to travel with long hair. With short hair, I'd have to wash it every day and style it and not that you're not styling long hair, but it just seems like it takes longer to deal with short hair, at least in my opinion, than it does with long hair. And with the longer hair, I don't have to wash it very often. In fact, these days I usually wash my hair like once or twice a week. So that part of taking care of my hair is really nice. I don't have to deal with it very often. And when I'm traveling, if you watch some of my vlogs or see some of the B-roll that I run on my videos on GenX, you'll see that I braid my hair a lot now. I really like wearing French braids. It's kind of fun, it's easy, and as my hair gets dirtier or I don't want to take the time to have to curl it or do anything to it, I'll just French braid it, or I'll put it in a couple of ponytails. I think that for me, for my travel style, I think that having the longer hair makes it an easier easier way to travel with. And I am not considering cutting it anytime soon. Now, you know, who knows way down the future, but right now I'm actually trying to get it a little bit longer. I'm kind of trying to see how healthy and long I can get it until it gets too heavy and is driving me crazy, and then I'll probably cut some inches off. But for now, I'm keeping it long. Okay, question number 4. What was the thing that finally drove you to leave the world of a more typical 9-to-5 job and pursue the self-employment path? Well, actually, I have pretty much been self-employed my entire work life. I did work for a few years out of college, got married. When I had my daughter, I actually stayed home for several years. So when I got back out into the workplace, there wasn't a whole lot of options available for, you know, after having missed 5 years of being in the marketing field. So one of the easiest things to do was to go and get my real estate license. So I worked for a contractor, I got my real estate license, and I became a realtor in Portland, Oregon, which is where I lived at the time. So I was a real estate agent for close to 20 years in Portland. And as a real estate agent, you're pretty much your own boss. You're self-employed. You're doing everything yourself. So I have been self-employed for a very, very long time. Now, what led me to make the change from being a real estate agent into getting into the YouTube gig? That is a long and involved story. And I can't remember if this is something that gets asked later on. No, I think I'll go ahead and answer it now. So I decided when my daughter was in her last year of college, or second to last year, either junior or senior year of college, I decided that I was ready to leave Portland. I had an amazing group of friends and a great support group there, but I was ready to spread my wings. I had been doing all of the responsible things for over 20 years, and I was ready to kind of go and live my life, do the adventurous stuff that I'd always dreamed of doing. So I got an offer from somebody, and they're in some ways regrettable, but also I don't regret the whole situation because it got me to where I am now. But basically, an old flame from high school contacted me, and we started chatting, and we decided to move to Nicaragua together. He was a big surfer, and there's a big surf community down there. So I moved to Nicaragua for about a little over a year. And when I moved to Nicaragua, I kind of closed up my real estate business. I kept some referral stuff going, but otherwise I was going to spend that year trying to figure out what my next step was, because I was burned out of real estate and I didn't want to stay in Portland. In fact, I intended to stay in Nicaragua a lot longer than I did, but that just didn't work out that way, mainly because I didn't feel like I had a purpose in my life. So I was at loose ends, and I was trying a couple of different things. I tried to do some print-on-demand business and lots of various different things. So it just didn't work out. And when I came back to North Carolina in 2019, I, again, was trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to get into real estate again, although I did go ahead and get my North Carolina real estate license. And I tried to kind of pursue that for a while, but I never could get motivated to do what I needed to do in order to build that business from scratch again, which it's hard. It's hard to be a real estate agent, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. It takes a good 5 years of really good intentional work to build a great referral network in order to have a successful real estate business. And once you've got that going, then you can do pretty well, which I did in Portland. But I just didn't have the energy or the passion to do that here in North Carolina. And I love to travel, and I had been traveling, not a whole lot, but I wanted to travel more. So I started looking into YouTube, and I started this YouTube channel in January of 2020 as a travel YouTube channel. So that wasn't great timing, was it? But I did it, and I started, and I did the research, and I had quite a few videos up, probably like 10 videos up, and then COVID hit, and I was actually in Hawaii when COVID hit. So when I got back from Hawaii, I didn't really know what to do with the YouTube channel. I tried to do a couple of videos of, you know, my quarantine situation and some other stuff, and nothing was taking off. Now, if I'd known what I know now, I would have stuck with it and kept making videos, but instead I went off and tried many different things. About a year and a half later, I noticed that one of those early videos had started getting some traction and views, and I thought, well, maybe I should give this another shot. So that is when I started posting every week. So that would have been like the summer of 2021. And so it's taken me from the summer of 2021 to now to get to 50,000 subscribers. But it has been an interesting journey, and I've done a lot in those 4 years. It's been almost 4 years. And yeah, so that is kind of my journey of how I went from my normal job to getting into YouTube. So it wasn't really all of a sudden a light bulb went off. It was, I really was searching for something. And this just happened to be something that as I started doing it, I really enjoyed doing it. And I got into learning all the YouTube things and how to do YouTube, and the writing of the scripts and the filming and the, you know, all the different aspects of it. And I love it. It's been the thing that I have really enjoyed doing the most that I have ever done in my life. So I'm super grateful to whatever led me to this decision to be here today. Need to actually sip some of this tea. Question number 5. Does hitting 50,000 subscribers also mean a monetary milestone or just a personal one? So 50,000 subscribers doesn't get you anything more on YouTube. Like, I don't get a higher AdSense revenue based off of having 50,000 subscribers. What it does help with is that it gives me leverage for negotiating sponsorships. So the more subscribers you have and the more reach you have to more people, then you can negotiate with brands to pay you a little bit more for those sponsorships. And I've been I've tried to really come at the sponsorships with a true business focus. So that has been something that has been helpful. Interestingly enough, I was already getting pretty decent sponsorship offers even at like 25 and 30,000 subscribers, or even less, because you guys are such a great engaging community, and sponsors like to see that. So for them, the number of subscribers is important, but they really like to see that there's a lot of engagement on the videos. So I'm always grateful that you guys are ready to chat in the comment section, even if I don't always show up on time. I know that is something I'm working on for you guys. I'm trying to be there in the comments more. It's just there's a lot of moving parts to make all of this happen. And now that I've added the vlog channel onto, that's a whole nother aspect of moving parts going on. So no, the 50,000 doesn't really give me a huge amount of any monetary, you know, difference, but it is kind of a nice personal goal to reach. And subscriber, you know, it's interesting. I don't want to go off on a rabbit hole here too long, but it's interesting that on YouTube these days, not a lot of people subscribe anymore. In fact, I have only 30% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed. So I have 70% of my viewers aren't even subscribed to my channel. And that is pretty much across the board on YouTube for most channels. It's really hard to get anybody to hit subscribe anymore because that's not how YouTube feeds you videos. They don't feed you all of your subscriber videos. In fact, sometimes you have to go look for the people that you're subscribed to because they're not being given to you on your homepage. So it's harder to get subscribers these days than I think it used to be. So, you know, it's more about how many views you're getting, and your watch hours are really the more important monetary aspects of YouTube and not subscribers. But it's a good, it's a number that can be reached, and it's worth celebrating. So of course the next one is that 100,000 subscriber mark that I'll be reaching for, and we'll see how quickly we can get there. Okay, moving on. This is a good one. and maybe going to be hard for me to answer. So number 6 is your favorite destination, both stateside and internationally, and why? Okay, wow. Oh, I have a hard time picking favorites because I'm one of those people that when I am in the place, I'm always like, oh my God, this is my favorite. I could totally live here. I love this so much. And I feel that way with so many places that I have traveled to. So it's really challenging to pick one that I would want that is my favorite. I think right now, I would say Japan is probably my favorite so far. I mean, I loved so many of these other places, but Japan just was magical, and it's such a different culture. The food is incredible. We experience so much of both the city and the rural aspects of Japan, and I honestly can't wait to go back. I mean, I loved it. The people were super nice. I just one of the most magical places I've ever been to, and very reasonable. Really, really would like to go back at some time, but I have so many other places that I want to go to. So it's hard to keep going back to the same place. I go back to Puerto Rico in the wintertime because it's a nice, warm getaway. And I know that sounds funny coming from somebody who lives in the South, but it was really brutally cold down here. For us, it was brutally cold down here this winter. And having a warm escape kind of as a way to recover from the winter. And I had been in Scandinavia, which was really cold too. So I do love Puerto Rico. I do go there over and over again. And I would say probably domestically, Puerto Rico is probably my favorite. Gosh, but there's so many other states that I love too. And Utah is incredible in such a different way. I mean, the all of the outdoorsy stuff in the Utah area and just the national parks is incredible area. Whew, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to pick just one. I'm sorry. There you go. I have lots of favorites. Oh, this was cute. Number 7 is, when are you coming to visit Australia? Soon, I hope. Maybe 2026. I was thinking maybe Antarctica in 2026, but now I'm thinking maybe do an Australia and New Zealand trip. My mom really wants to go to New Zealand. I don't think she has the stuff that I would want to do in Australia. I don't think my mom would have any interest in doing. But so maybe Australia in 2026 and then have my mom fly and meet me in New Zealand. I'm not sure. I'll keep you up to date on what I decide. If not 2026, it'll probably be 2027. It's not going to happen this year, unfortunately, but soon. I really, really want to get to the Down Under real soon. Okay, so number 8. Are you originally from North Carolina, and what states have you lived in? I am a Carolina girl. I grew up here. I was born here. I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, while my mom was at school at UNC Greensboro. And then my parents moved back down here to the coast to Moorhead, this area that I live in now in Carteret County, called the Crystal Coast, if you want to look it up. And I grew up here, and I went to school in North Carolina, went to UNCG like my mom did. And then I moved to Oregon in the early 90s. And that is where I was married. Well, I married a guy that I went to high school with, but we lived in Oregon, had my daughter, and I stayed in Oregon until, well, I will say we had a brief stint that we lived in Tallahassee, Florida, when my ex-husband was trying to decide what law school to go to. So we did live in Tallahassee, Florida for about 3 or 4 months. And then we ended up moving out to Oregon. And then like I said, in 2018, I moved to Nicaragua, which is not a state, but it is somewhere else that I lived. And then I moved back to North Carolina. And in that time, I spent a summer, let's see, and I think this is going to segue really nicely into the question that you guys were all excited to hear about. And I don't know if I'm going to have anything exciting to tell you about it, but I will give you a little bit of my history. So I did live in Alaska for a summer a couple of summers ago because I was dating a guy who is he does charter fishing out of Seward, Alaska every summer. So he lives here on the Outer Banks in the wintertime, and then he lives up in Alaska in the summertime. And we dated, so we'll just segue right into the dating. So we dated for 3 years. And prior to that, I was divorced. I got divorced in 2006. So I was divorced for quite a long time, and I went through the whole dating scene, and I was in Oregon, so I was doing the online dating and meeting people organically, although that's, was a little more challenging and is so challenging as we get older to meet people organically. And I met the guy that I dated here. I met him actually through friends. One of my best friends' husband was good friends with him, and they basically kind of set us up. He knew he was being set up. I didn't know I was being set up. But anyway, so long story short, we met. And we hit it off, and it was a fantastic 3 years. And I do love him. I will always love him, but it just ended up coming to a point that we were both going in different directions at the time. And that was a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's been challenging since then. I have not really dated since then. It's been, it was hard for me to move on. Harder than I would have anticipated given how long I'd lived by myself before. But I think because I really truly loved him, that it's been harder. But also, I've had a lot of stuff happen in those 2 years since that. My dad, right about that same time, is when my dad was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and he went downhill pretty quickly, and he passed about a year after we broke up. So the year before he passed, I was spending a lot of time with him. I was helping take him to appointments, and really the GenX Gypsy channel was really starting to take off then, so I was spending a lot of time with my business. And I just didn't feel like I was ready to open myself up to dating that first year. Just before my dad passed, I did start looking into some online dating, and I went out on a couple of dates, but just didn't feel the spark with anybody. And then my dad passed, and that kind of threw me back for a while. That was hard. I mean, it wasn't unexpected, but it still was. It just happened a lot faster than I was hoping it would. And then I was also my sister and I were co-executors of his estate, and his widow challenged the estate. So that became a whole thing. That was a battle that had to be fought for almost the entire year last year. Most of 2024 was spent dealing with my dad's estate and straightening things out and going through all of that mess, to put it bluntly. So I am just now starting to really want to maybe put myself back out there. I know that's so definitive, isn't it? I live in a very, very tiny area. There aren't a lot of options of men that are in my age range, appropriate age range, whatever that might be. And I don't know that I really want to have to travel anywhere to date somebody. I have so much going on in my life. My life is whole. I mean, I have an incredibly full and whole and enjoyable and joyful life, as I am as a single person. I do miss having the closeness of a partner. When I hit 50,000, to be completely honest with you guys, when I hit 50,000, I mean, my friends were incredibly supportive and they wanted to go out and do something, but I really missed having that partner that had gone through all the harder times and, challenges and stuff with growing this channel. It just would have been I would have liked to have had somebody to have shared that with. And I think that is where, I love these women who are, you don't need a man in your life. You can be single. It's totally fine. And I know I kind of probably come across as being one of those people. And I do fine. I love my life. I really do. But there are certain moments in life that I do miss having that partner and having somebody to share both the good times and maybe some of the bad times with. I mean, that's a true partnership, right? I mean, that you can do both. So dating is maybe in my future. I mean, if I'm constantly, I will say, I make sure that I look pretty damn good when I go out to the grocery store these days. I'm not just going in my sweats with my hair up in a ponytail and no makeup on anymore. I'm making the effort so that if I meet somebody organically, I meet them organically. And I know it shouldn't matter. I should be fine meeting them in my real, the way I really look, but I don't know, that's the Southern girl in me. I always want to make sure that I have. My mom taught me to never leave the house without lipstick on, so that's kind of ingrained in me. I can't see right now that I would put myself out for online dating. I don't think it's workable for where I live. But I am constantly looking when I'm at the airport and I'm getting on a plane. It'd be nice to have a fella that, likes to travel, since that's what I love to do, and is adventurous and willing to try new things. So yeah, I wish I had more juicy gossip for you on the dating front, but I don't. Yeah, it's kind of a desert out here for me, but I'm putting myself out there, and if the spark happens, then I will definitely be pursuing that. But yeah, I'm interested. How are you guys with date? Like, do any of you have some really good, juicy dating stories? Maybe you've met somebody when you've been traveling, either for a short-term romance or, something that's lasted longer. I think we could all use a little hopeful stories about dating, these days. I know it just seems challenging to find, it's challenging to find people our age to hang out with. And I know it's also, not to get on another tangent, but I know it's also challenging to find good girlfriends if you don't have, I know I am incredibly lucky to have the group of girlfriends that I do, and we've been friends since we were in high school. So most of us have been friends for over 40 years, and the other friends that have kind of come in along the way, I am incredibly grateful and lucky. So finding friends and partners once you're over 35 is hard. And I get that. So, let's share things in the comments of ways that you've been able to meet even new friends when you're out traveling. That's pretty much all the questions that I got from you guys. I hope that I answered your burning curiosity. But if you came up with other questions that you have for me, just feel free to drop them in the comments below. And I am curious if you guys might want another one of these Q&A videos in another 6 months or so. Let me know. I know this is so not my normal video, and yeah, maybe only 5 of you decided to show up and listen to me today, so I appreciate you being here. I don't know how many people are curious about a 56-year-old lady and her life, so I appreciate you being here today. Yeah, so that's it for me today. Now, if you have not had a chance to check out the travel vlog channel that I kind of got started this year, I'm going to have that linked up here if you want to check that out and see kind of what the travel adventures that I get to are all about. Otherwise, thank you for being here today, and I hope you have safe and wonderful travels.